What do you think would happen if I said Allahu Akbar during this flight?
You'd create a panic.
From the call to prayer, Iqamah, Salat, or the prayer itself, and even remembrance of God after, Muslims say or hear this phrase around 400 times a day. It means Allah or God is the greatest.
I mean, it's not entirely dishonest, but it is a little bit of gaslighting going around here. So, having had Muslim friends when I was at the University of Medicine, and also having traveled to Middle Eastern countries, as you mentioned, the phrase is being uttered more than 400 times a day, and it gives the impression to a foreigner like myself that around 20 to 40% of the language consists of the words Allah Akbar, in which situation context is king. So it depends where it is being mentioned and how. So there is one thing when a Muslim is praying, like that is not going to cause anxiety for the people around them, or when you hear the call to prayer, or when you're at the mosque, or when you're talking to them and they seem grateful. But it is also used as a battle cry, as a warrior chant, as a rallying call. In which case, if you were to actually scream Allah Akbar in a plane, even other Muslims that happen to be on the plane would feel a little bit of distress. In fact, if you were to scream it in a crowded market for no reason whatsoever, other Muslims around you may be a little bit upset because, yes, God is great, but the person chanting that within that context may not be very great. So, there's a little bit of gaslighting, I would say, right? Because, again, I have spoken with other Muslim subscribers, and they have confirmed that if they were to be in a plane where another person is screaming that chant, it would definitely cause a level of anxiety. Now, I guess it's kind of like shouting fire in a crowded theater. The word itself, like fire, that doesn't necessarily mean something bad. It can mean that you spotted the fire, or maybe, you're talking about the movie. But if you get up and you start screaming it, then you do cause a panic, right? So it's not that other people are bigoted, it's the context in which it happens. The context in which it transpires is very important. And to be honest, the more I think about it, the more I realize that it doesn't really matter what you're shouting in a plane. If any person is shouting, except for a child inside the plane, it is bound to create a level of anxiety, isn't it? I mean, you are trapped in a pressurized cabin with other people with no way out, and if someone decides to start screaming anything, it's going to create a panic. Am I not correct about this? And what's also interesting is that when one person does something, if other people that overwhelming numbers react in a certain way, then I suppose it's a lot easier for the person themselves to decide not to say the thing that causes anxiety to a multiple number of other people, be more polite and mindful to those around them. Like, for instance, when I was with my Muslim friends at the University of Medicine, and I would go to study somewhere with them, and they would be fasting during Ramadan, so I know that despite the fact that it's the middle of the day, they haven't ate anything, it would have been impolite for me to just take a hamburger and start eating while they're studying, right? And allow the smell of the food in order to tempt them and to make them unfocused on their studies. Does that make any sense? Right now, of course, I could have done that had I wanted to. I mean, I was in Romania. It was my right. If I wanted to decide to eat a hamburger, I could. But I was being more mindful about the people around me, which, in turn, were more mindful about it. This is how you create a healthy society. You're being mindful of others, and other people are being mindful of you. Even though, you may think, oh, well, what I'm doing is not wrong. I mean, I don't follow Ramadan. I am hungry right now. I have the desire to eat, so why can't I eat? Well, it's because it would have been impolite in that situation. Even if I was hungry as well, right? I could have gone down, bought a shawarma. We had a really good person from Iraq next to my university had a restaurant. Great shawarma, one of the best in my city. Right, so how would it be like if I was going to go down there and take one and then come back to the library and start studying while eating, and cause the smell and the aroma to. Not good. Not good. So that's my point, you know. So these types of videos, I do not understand what their purpose is. Like, trying to control how other people feel. I mean, again, like most people understand what Allah Akbar means. They also understand that there is a context, a time, and a place for this to be mentioned. If you are to say it in a plane or to shout it in a plane, do not be startled when other people feel a little bit of anxious. I mean, especially when, like, I guess, like, in the video he is saying, like, do not let the terrorists win. And while I understand, and you can say that I sympathize with the point, other Muslims themselves seem to understand the situation. It's not like me, the kafir, coming up and saying these things. It's like, no. So the only question is, like, why do you have to mention it then? Right? Like, if you're on a plane, and you know that mentioning it causes a certain level of alarm and distress, why must you mention it? Like, is it really that necessary? Especially, like, if you're going to mention it, you know, as you pointed out in this video, in a way that's very low, you know, like Allah Akbar. Okay. Most people probably won't even hear it. And if someone does hear it, again, it depends with the tone of voice, the way you say it. And if that's the case, then why do you care how people react? Again, this is not me. Look, this is even a comment from your own video saying, mate, I'm a Muslim Iranian. So I get where you're coming from, but you gotta be a little bit more aware of the situation. It's just too much risk for you to be caught up in any trouble. Say it to yourself silently and realize that people's fear will always override any rational thoughts when they believe their life is in danger, right? Because this is another thing, like, you're basically asking people to pretend that it's not also, in some contexts, used as a war chant. So you're now placing that person on the spot to figure out, all right, well, is he using it as a war chant, or is he using it as a grateful thing, or like part of his religion? Like, why would you want to put other individuals in this situation, in this scenario? It's the same thing like crying fire in a crowded theater. It's like, is there really a fire, or is this person just a funny guy trying to make a prank? You know, context. Again, I'm pretty sure if you say it next to a mosque, or if you say it as part of your prayer, or if you're just talking with a friend and you're saying it as, you know, you're grateful of something. So it is context-based. Now, here's something that I was taught by my grandparents when I was a kid. A lot of Romanians were taught this way, and it saddens me to see when it's not followed. But the idea is that when you travel to a different country, so like I'm from Romania, I would travel to the United States, or if I were to travel to the UK, it is best if you speak the language of that place to avoid misunderstandings. Because if you talk in a language that no one knows, then don't be surprised when people don't understand the context. But if you were to just, you know, speak common English with your friend or at the phone, and you're saying something like, well, apparently the test results came up and my grandmother doesn't have cancer. Allah Akbar. No one is going to react in a negative way if you do that. Like, everyone understands the context, right? Or if you say something like, I managed to get the job. Allah Akbar. But if you're speaking in a language that other people don't understand, then suddenly you're like, Allah Akbar. Right? Like, context is important. So how can people get the context unless you're talking in a language they understand? So if you were to, like, legitimately be interested in making other people feel safe in an airplane of all places, then if you were to speak a language that all of them understand, and from that context it is implied that you are using this phrase that can be used in multiple other means, but you're using it in a way to show praise or to be happy or something like that, then people will not show any anxiety. But if you're like saying it all of a sudden, or heaven forbid you're screaming it, then even other Muslims will definitely feel anxious. So this is my take regarding this very viral video which was presented to me. Let me know what you guys think, and as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.